And as we've discovered over the last few years, we cannot trust any of the history that's been presented. There's certainly been a game on here on the public's perceptions. But this here is quite a telling little idea, isn't it? And it's just too close for comfort there, so I'll just leave it and it's talked about many a time, so I just thought I'd put this up. I have covered things like this in the past, but I thought it was pretty interesting just to put it up, considering we're talking about Beth, and you can see that is the first word you're looking at. Yes, there are a lot of legends of the people from Scythia going to Libya, what they call Libya, which is Barbary Coast, as you can see here, and to Ireland and back again. Who knows? But interesting little paragraph here too. Finnegan. And we see this Finnegan thing. It was a TV show or whatever. It's been an Albert Finney sort of thing, I've talked about these ideas before. Now, when they were creating the idea of a Greek country there in the 1800s, they gave them a Phoenix coin, can you believe? So everything old is new again. Phoenix coin from Greece. Show you here. Quite a history. Ioannis brought it in, the old John the Baptist himself, look, Cape Distris. And the Phoenix bird. Replace the Ottoman currency, see? And they said about changing history, as they were doing, of course, in that period and periods just before that. It was a big part of it, the Phoenix coin. Most people wouldn't have known of this. Now we've got a new Phoenix coin. So a bit of an interesting idea here, the 9th of January, not many days away, and the way things are happening in that little sort of world. Oh, look out, an ounce of 999, so which way you hold it, 666 gold, $5 there with a phoenix on it. This one here, phoenix from the ashes. Lots of phoenix coins around, it's been a very popular idea. Here's our new buddy here. Operation Phoenix coin. Operation Phoenix coin. You got to be kidding, haven't you? Well, I'll have to do another video on this. There's just too much here I've discovered. Look at this. Yes, look out. I'll get back to you with another video. So thanks for watching, folks, and stay tuned. Well, for people to understand the depth of the chicanery in the fantasy island that this world and its history is, and we've seen in recent events, which have been documented on this channel and others, you can't beat the work of a guy called Tom Carberry. The guy's got 30 videos up on a channel called Tom Carberry. They've only been up nearly a couple of years maybe now. He's put them up there over a whole year period, and it is just high scholarly work that he shows many things that I've discussed over many years here on this channel, and Tom credits me several times in his videos, and I thank him for that. But he has taken everything to a huge level, and it's maybe going to take you a month to get through all of his videos, because each one really needs to be listened to twice. They are incredible pieces of work here on YouTube, and certainly with all the events that we're seeing in the Middle East, the Great Delusion, as Tom calls it, and the big delusion we feel is that the location of Jerusalem, this whole idea, this concept, has somehow been brewed in Europe transported to the area there because of geopolitical reasons. That area, of course, being such a crossroads, you might say, of all of land masses. But the story seemed to be brewed in Barcelona, Spain. But certainly this Book of Enoch business, and it just so happens our old friend Josephus Scaliger. Now, it's funny how there's this Josephus writing things in the Bible, and the old Justice too. Even these figures too could be fraudulent. I mean, the whole of history. But it just shows you that things that were being shown, we haven't been shown history very well. And this business about going to Ethiopia here, James Bruce in Kinard, Scotland. Anyway, I'm going to play a fair few pieces here of Tom. And I'm certainly this year really going to go and look at this work in a really serious way, which I've done over the years, and I'll link up things he talks about and where he's given me shout-outs, especially, which I'll show you here in a minute, to do with Montana. I'll just play this little bit here, very interesting stuff from our friend Tom Carver.
Questioning the Book of Enoch, or not. The first traces of the long-lost Book of Enoch occurred when Josephus Justus Scaliger, 1540 to 1609, discovered extensive tracts of it in an unpublished book called Chronographia by a 9th century monk, George Cecilius. Now, scholars write this type of stuff all the time, but no one questions how a book from the 9th century could survive into the 16th or 17th century, depending when scholars supposedly read this. Today, if you try to check out an old book out of the library, they won't even let you check it out because they all will fall apart on you. History tells us that in the 18th century, James Bruce of Kinnaird, Scotland, a descendant of King Robert the Bruce, went to Ethiopia and brought back 3 copies of the Book of Enoch. Bruce gave 1 copy to King Louis XV, 1 to the Bodleian Library at Oxford, and kept 1 for himself. Again, here we have the upper classes giving us or planting information on us. Just as after Israel became Israel, they discovered the Dead Sea Scrolls, or how in the 20th century people just happened on the Nag Hammadi scriptures. I'm not saying these are false, just saying that it seems that people plant things on us. Scaliger, Aquitaine, Basques, and Jesuits. Scaliger grew up in Agen, France, on the Nag Hammadi scriptures. I'm not saying these are false, just saying that it seems that people plant things on us. Scaliger, Aquitaine, Basques, and Jesuits. Scaliger grew up in Agen, France, the prefecture of the capital of the Lot and Huron department in the Aquitaine region, which got its name from Lot and his father Huron. He went to the College of Gien in Bordeaux, and Gien is an Occitan way of saying Aquitaine. So it's the College of Aquitaine in Bordeaux. And Bordeaux is the largest city in Aquitaine. This connects him to Terah, Abraham, Lot, and Eleanor of Aquitaine, and the Plantagenet kings of England, who we'll see shortly. Video 6 on Ur showed that Terah and his family probably sailed from Ireland to Bordeaux in Aquitaine. The Basque once ruled Aquitaine, and the Basque founded the Society of Jesus, or the Jesuits. We saw that in the video, I think it was 24, in Machpelah, where Abraham purchased a sepulcher for Sarah from the brothers of Het, who became the Jesuits. In that version in the 13th century, but the Jesuits became the Jesuits in the 16th century, and I think that's one of the reasons I think the 13th and the 16th century get duplicated. Scaliger and Jacob. Video 26 connected Jacob with Jacopino della Scala, or of the latter, and the leaders of Verona, Italy, also Venetians. Scaliger claimed to descend from the della Scala family. The Jesuits attacked him ferociously for this claim. Video 24 in Machpelah and the Hittites connected Abraham, the grandfather of Jacob, to the founding of the Jesuit order. The Phoenicians and Venetians have a strong
29, it's called Cadmus. And that was him talking, of course, about the book of Enoch and how, people just find these books. But here he's talking about Montana. And he comes up with some very interesting things here about the place names, and here's where he gives a shout out to me. But certainly his depth of study and to do with America too, not just Europe. And he certainly comes up with some interesting ideas about the fraudulent history, and it's possible that Europeans have come actually out of the Great Lakes area there of America in particular. He talks about Lake Erie, of course, and that is the name we have for Ireland. There's some interesting connections from Tom, but certainly some interesting stuff here on Montana, and I'll just play the video.
The diocese of Helena, the capital of Montana in the face of Minos. Now, let's take a look at some of the towns in the diocese. Here we have Hamilton, named after the leading royal family of Scotland, today the Douglas Hamiltons. Now, Jungle Surfer has made many videos on the Hamilton name. We also have Phillipsburg, which can represent Philip and the Ethiopian eunuch from the New Testament, or it can represent the father of Alexander the Great. We also have Florence, with the city in the midst of the river Arnon. And Drummond. Jungle Surfer has also made a number of videos on the Drummond name. Down here we have Derby. Derby is after Colonel William Derby of Derby's Rangers, and Camp Derby in Italy, near where Moses died. And over here to the east, this town.
That can't be. You can't get these two images. Impossible. One has to be a fraud at least. But I tell you now, do either of them look real? Just CGI artwork. We should have a lot better imagery of our globe Earth from space, seeing there's so many satellites, so they say. There are no satellites because, as I said before, rockets can't steer. Rockets are a fraud in themselves, and I've covered this many times. And look at this Africa picture. Now, anyone who wants to deny this, they're just not thinking. Same size, and look how big Africa looks here. And something funny about the Saudi Arabia too. Look at the wide bottom here, it's much narrower. But look at the difference. This can't be. That's impossible. And finally, look at this one here. Look how little we can see here of South America, and not much of India there, covered by cloud conveniently. But when we scroll down here, we see there's another image, and look, clearly India, a lot more South America, same size, look. Pretty much. Funny shape, this one here. But, there's just not good images of Earth from space, and they all vary. They vary just totally, yet they're all Earth from space. Look at it here, taking up all of this. Well, people would know that I've made many videos about Antarctica and showing that it's truly a fantastic place, and nothing that we've seen isn't fantastic. The tours, the McMurdo, the Barati, Halley, everybody seems to have a station there, even the Ukraine has one. So that's enough to tell you how fantastic it all is. McMurdo with its reactor, they decommission when you leave it running, if it ran that long, because it's all fantastic. So what is really down there? And I would suggest that the most plausible idea, because I know a guy who's been a chef at the Mawson or Casey base, one or the other, and he also told me, interesting enough, that he flew from one base to the other, and he flew across the sea the whole way, because he said, they don't fly inland. So now we see some of those bases miles inland, so that negates that straight away, doesn't it? So on the fringe, but the fringe to me this is Heard Island. Now, nobody goes in this zone. Now, if there's one island there, there's probably a few more, and that's all it is, because there's only activity in Antarctica pretty much down the south of South America, and to do with Australia and New Zealand. Seems to be a lot lacking with Africa, except that French thing that I showed you possibly, but that looked pretty strange too, and Amsterdam Island. So we really can't see, tell what we're looking at there either. There seems to be a bit more evidence of Heard and Macquarie. Wish I'd known about this. I went and visited my cousin about 5 years ago and stayed with her in Hobart, and it's got a lot of maritime stuff, and there's a fair bit of Antarctic stuff and ideas there. Of course, it's in the area, and if it was now, I could ask more questions. Of course, I was asking some, but I would have a different appreciation. That is for certain. I can tell you, I've seen penguins and seals, and it's certainly cold down there. Somebody said to me once, Australia's tropical. Yeah, well, not in the south. Tasmania even gets snow sometimes in the middle of summer, albeit only lasts a few hours. But it definitely gets a snow cover up in winter. They go skiing there, and of course New Zealand famous for its ski slopes. So we know it's cold down there. So there's my point. Now this island would get all snow on it too, Heard Island, and any island down there naturally in the winter, as long as there's enough land, and it's, the sea keeps things from having snow a bit, with precipitation, etc. It washes it away, etc. So there's a strange balance here going on. So that's why I don't believe a lot of real icy things, except maybe glaciers that do carve maybe small amounts of ice, but they're certainly not creating things like this in the ocean. That's another matter too. So they're frauding all this up. As we know, we've got Thunderbird, Admiral Byrd, there's another part of it. We've got tours down there, as I said. Just everything they tell you, you can't trust one thing. So I suggest possibly a few islands set off South America, off Australia, and then you have this realm here, which no doubt big surf, big rolling swells, and getting colder and colder, and then you might get to a point where it freezes up, and maybe these people can play a little bit in this zone. But the further they go here, of course, there's no support. It's only a bit of ice, high tide level. It's not a big wall. It's just the ocean is frozen, so it would freeze at sort of high tide and king tide level, even, because one time there'd be a king tide, the water would go at the top of this and freeze, you might say. That'd be one thing I could think of. But then I've drawn these two lines, and what they're simply, the sun may only ever get to here. So then, even if we can permeate so far, maybe it just gets too cold for all mechanical devices. You're going to jump out and walk in a spacesuit, and then the darkness may start. Maybe this air being so cold, not letting light through, big possibility. You might have, that's why I've got a grey marker, the grey area, and go further and further, and then you come to the black. Reminds me of what they say, with the ocean, and it certainly does get dark in the ocean, and this would be the same thing. And simply, it's just too far from here to get there and back, so we're totally limited. The cold, just all our mechanical devices shut down at a certain temperature. It would be near impossible to go much further, and what a place to go once you're into the dark. Imagine if it is, like I'm saying, a totally dark, cold space. The further you go, so you're never going to get to whatever may be here. And no one is ever going to get there. It's a bit like space, as in there's no outer space, as we know. It's confined space of some sort. And we're confined to maybe 50,000 feet, because we know the 100,000 feet and that we've seen with the guy jumping out at 135, the inner angle number, all of that. Just you can say that's fantastic. So we know very little about very deep in the ocean, as I've shown with these little subs. I'll have to look around for little bells they might drop. That might be something you can go a bit deeper in. It's got cables, you can pull it up with a big motor. But anything self-propelled is going to find it very hard to get up from stream, those ones to tourists, that might be a possibility. They use a lot of power to power themselves through at a certain depth. They take in a bit of water and see them sort of working somewhat small. That the bigger type ones that you see, they can only just go below the sea and not for long. They'd want to come back up, I would think. Very dangerous piece of equipment, that. Definitely a show pony idea, and how it was in World War I and II. Fantastic all round there. Right back to the turtle. Everything fantastic. So the idea of going underneath this is garbage too, of course. So that's why we don't know anything much past this zone. Maybe here, certainly really starting to get into trouble here, and no one's probably even been to here, let alone how far this goes. Who would know? And people can say, oh yeah, well they haven't been there. That's the problem. So we just got to face what we know and the facts in front of us. And I'm saying that's a plausible idea, because you see that they're showing you all this stuff. Well, why are they doing that? Of course, to sell the idea there's a continent down there and it's at the South Pole. This isn't very sexy. This is a give-up job. It's them admitting that something they don't know about, you might say, maybe. It's a thought. They're my thoughts on the matter. Now, this image here is no better than this image here, as you can see. But sort of this what it might look like with the frozen ocean, except in flatter. This here appears to be on some sort of ridge, just giving you an idea of what real depth and whatever here. This is all, it's probably standing near a wall, or we're just taking a picture somewhere in Canada and then they put this here, because look, I mean, it's too easy done. The guy sitting on the toilet here, I mean, it's about the level of it. All this stuff like this, it's just endless. See? Nothing is real. Look at this one here with this boat in here. It just doesn't look safe to me. And what's this bit? That should tell you. It is fantastic. Always got to have the animals. Some foam there, TT on there, look at that. Oh, here they are in the snowmobiles, riding snowmobiles. Where do they get their petrol from? How far can you go out in this? But this is, nothing's right, see? Look, it's all frozen here, but, there's hardly anything here, just a little patch there. Nothing ends up at all, ever. So, just got to throw it in the dustbin. Oh, what's happened here? Oh, they're coming on now. Look at this bit here. Who's taking this photograph? Is that the same thing? Yeah, look. Wag the dog. And of course, it's a real handy thing, all this, because, little kitty's crying about the penguins that are falling in the sea or something. So I'll tell you what, we are in a strange, well, it's obvious, isn't it? The media, it's terrible. Look at this. Yeah, sure. Look at those flags. There's nothing like that down there, and as far as any 24-hour cameras go, you can just throw that straight out the window. Look at this. That should just tell you. I don't need to say anything to her. Look. Everything's the same with it. It's like a cartoon. Fantastic. Yes, you never know what they're going to pull next out of this area. Let's look at this bit here. Oh yeah, the frozen lost city. There you go. these people swimming down there. And if it was truly like this, you wouldn't be swimming there. Turn into an icicle in seconds. Oh, look, a bit of a nudie swim. Oh, look, it's the Mediterranean. Yes, these events in Antarctica will leave you speechless. They certainly will. What do you think of that, folks? Do you think this is fantastic or what? I think it truly is. There you go. Fantastic scenery of Antarctica. Oh, I thought I'd save the best image for last. Does anyone really think that that's not fantastic? That is truly amazing, fantastic. That's just brilliant. It's like a bird. Like a swan. Fair dinkum. Oh, here we go. We're camping in Antarctica. Isn't it funny none of these people film their exploits and put them on YouTube? Come on, campers. I want to see some really good footage of this particular camp. If you're on it, release your footage, please. It looks like houses in the background here, I thought. It's painted white. Oh, yeah, that's a great defence for the old Nucos. Well, black and gold, and you can tell from this here. Fantastic. Oh, he's back again. It's always the same one. Oh, look at this little one here. All the flags. They go all the way down there. They raise the flags, as you do. The fantastic Roman history of Britain. And here we have a pharos. This is inside the Dover Castle complex. This is the original Roman Dover lighthouse, said to have been built in AD 50. And you see these red things here, these are tiles they're saying, must have been on the roof of this. When they built this here, which is supposed to be 600 AD, 1000 AD, and then restorations in 1862 and 1888. A lot of 8 going on, of course it's an octagon. But this was the oldest, or meant to be one of the oldest buildings still surviving today in England. A Roman build. But it's so quaint, isn't it? The construction here and the construction here are nearly identical. Of course, these guys just copied this. They're saying something. This was one of the other pharoses. So there was another one here 1,000 metres away. There's all sorts of conjecture as to this matching business, you see. This is the Roman lighthouse, over 2,000 years old. Reminds me sort of Monty Python. I wonder whether they used Monty. Was that the castle of Monty Python? You could throw a cow through there. So a very interesting building indeed. Here's the other angle of it. This one's showing different doorways here. Funny, this one's very narrow and this one's wide, and then back to narrow again. These apparently the tiles used on the cornerstones. Yes, 1862, 188, but 1888, the George Gilbert Scott. It's like Scott of Antarctica, or Beam Me Up Scotty. Here we have the Butterfield Blues Band. But Scott, what a name. Turns up so many things in history. Sir Walter Scott, the said Scott of Antarctica, and as we know today, in many events, there's always a Scott. Beam Me Up Scotty. Not to mention the George and the G, GGG. And what a very interesting name. St. Mary of Castro. Cannot make these things up, folks. Castro. Castrato. Very interesting indeed. St. Mary and Castro. Notice here, dedicated to Thomas Becket. There's another one of those stories in history we know so well. And there's a Ramsay, Admiral Sir Bertram, in fact, Ramsay, in November 2000. Interesting, around that 2000 period, eh? Y2K bug. Yes, Dunkirk. There's a lot of connections, as they often do. Here is the complex, beautiful views you can see there. Everything here is Norman, generally. It's put down to a Norman idea. Certainly, a lot of restorations being done, or it's newer than they're saying anyway. But this certainly here, matching this quite nicely, but 1,000 years separates them in age, and related to the Battle of Hastings idea. And look, Mitt Romney had a little hand in it all too. And Berserkshire is often in many things, as we know. But here we have Invicta. Invictus. So Invictus is really Invicta, of course, being the feminine, compared to us being the masculine. And you would imagine that there'd have to be Roman ruins in London. And not to disappoint here, we have it. We have the Roman city wall, the remains of the Roman city wall. Now, wouldn't this have gone all the way around the city, but I guess people stole all the bricks. So it came to this end here. Lack of continuum here, but maybe it went onto a wall like this here, as you can see. So we have walls like this, exactly like this in Australia, but because Australia wasn't here in Roman times, so we're just copying the design in colonial Australia, as you might call it. There's a bit of subterranean London wall sections. It's quite interesting indeed. Nothing like a little bit of a hedgerow. Fantastic stuff coming out of London here. Here's a bit more wall ruins. Nice archway there. Nice brickwork here. And of course, other than the old Great Wall of China, the most famous wall anywhere really, before Trump's wall,